There is no substitute for a well-written illustrated log of a cruise or travelogue. I have now done quite a few logs, and the techniques have evolved over the years. It is time-consuming to do, but it can be fun and provides a record that becomes increasingly valuable as you get older. I undertook to produce some articles on this subject, but decided that some matters were best dealt with by video tutorial, hence this series. You will recall that we had merged the visible layers into a new layer called Labeled. So we scroll to the bottom and change to the Artistic Text tool and select a font. I'm using the simple but clear Verdana. Now we steadily work our way through the important locations and label them. If required, we can always switch back to SOB to look up names and spellings. There's a lot of this, so once again I will fade out and return when it is done. Just the last one to do. Here is the final result with the important places named. Each individual label has its own layer. To make things easier, we merge them once again and label the new layer Labeled. Then we duplicate that layer and rename the new layer Trimmed. Next, we select all the layers below the trimmed layers and switch them off, making them invisible. Now we select the Erase tool, make it fairly soft and set the opacity to about 50% or less. We can then gradually erase the jagged edges to produce a pleasing shape with feathered edges. No doubt other software has slightly different ways of achieving this effect, but it is pretty basic. Once again, this takes a bit of time, so I will fade out and come back when the job is done. Now I am being slightly inconsistent and simply duplicating the layer. Simon Foster would prefer a more non-destructive approach, but I have tried to keep things fairly simple and not fuss too much about the application specifics. This new layer is called Cropped. First, I want to rotate the chart so I can get the tightest crop. I need more room, so I will increase the canvas size. Procedures for doing this may be software specific. Then we can crop in tight and save as a working Affinity document and export a copy as a .png file because we want to preserve the transparency. Now we can rotate. Oops, I forgot to switch off the layer below. Next, we use the crop tool to make the image as small as possible. Finally, save the finished result and export a copy as a .png file to preserve the transparency around the edges. Finally, we demonstrate how our track map can be used. For this purpose, I have used Serif's current desktop publisher, Serif Page Plus. There are many others, and my son tells me that the later versions of Word have most of these capabilities. I'm afraid that I am a DTP addict. Here we have an open A4 page to which we insert the chart. We need to rotate it back so the text is horizontal on the page. We can add text boxes to set the wrapping around the chart so we can demonstrate the way text can be placed around the chart. Even at this late stage, the chart can be resized and the text will adjust. And there is the final result. In other tutorials, we will show that charts covering a smaller area can be much simpler. We will also cover drawing tracks on maps, and finally, how to animate the tracks for a video.